What is going on, everyone? It is your girl, Nicole.
And I'm Jardin.
And welcome to the Playbook Diaries podcast, where there is a story behind every single play, but we have just been enjoying each other's banter for the last couple of weeks. Welcome.
What?
Because there's like a story behind every play, but there's a story behind every play, but we've been bantering back and forth for the past couple episodes.
Yeah, yeah,
That's not,
yeah.
yeah, which is great, which is great. How are you, my girl?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna keep it a bean. I am a little tipsy still. I just left the club. I'm in Houston. I'm on a work trip right now. It's Sunday, for the record. It's Sunday.
Do
So I
they
just left the club.
like Like for those of you who are driving, I wish you would see my face. That caught me so off guard.
I only say it like it's like a disclaimer because it's like if I say anything, I don't think I'm gonna say anything crazy because I'm not fried. But it's like if something is just like
I'm not fried.
that didn't that didn't really make sense. It's like, oh, okay, let's keep in mind that she has a little bit of champagne in her system and she just left the club to be with the viewers for Public Diaries. So I did what had to be done.
You did what you had to get done. I feel it though. I feel it. I feel it. I feel it. Wait, I just dropped something. I thanks for asking how I've been. I
Screaming. Hey Nicole, how have you been? I know that you've been out for a couple weeks. I saw you on Instagram and it looked like you had a really fun birthday trip. How was your birthday trip?
Thank you for asking. Like what? You got to teach people how to love you, right?
Yeah. You be clocking me a lot. And that's cool.
It's not a love though. It's just hey.
Yeah, no, I've never taken offense to it. I'm like, ooh, damn. Oops. Oops. Nicole just came back from a birthday. So how was your birthday trip?
Birthday trip was dope. Shout out to all of the friends and family who came out to show me some love. Then dished off to Chicago. Chicago is like one of the most beautiful cities ever. Like went to a Chicago Bears game. It was beautiful vibes. People were worried it was going to be cold, but it was like perfect weather. Um, have you been to Chicago before? You made a face when I said it was beautiful.
You said it was one of the most beautiful cities, and I think that Chicago is pretty.
Yeah.
I would not put it in my top 10, but
I guess
it
I'm
is
coming
pretty.
from the landscape of the United States. Um,
Maybe. If you talk
oh,
like that, maybe. Yeah.
Chicago's a baddie. Chicago will be a baddie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but either way,
This
birthday was great. Birthday was great. Um, what are we talking about today? Have you been keeping up with the WNBA any?
yes, I have in regards
Cool.
to what?
Just in general. Right now, the WNBA is in the playoffs. The New York Liberty just kicked off or kicked out the Las Vegas Aces, and the Las Vegas Aces have won the past 2 consecutive years. So I'm actually happy. I'm all for competitiveness. So I didn't really want
Yeah,
to get a three-peat, no haterade, but get some work.
I feel that. I agree with that. So I was keeping up with that. And fun fact, or fun observation, I am out in Houston. I'm at a bar. I think I was at Prospect Park in Houston. And it's lit. I've got my hookah, I've got my liquor, I've got my,
Oh,
Philly cheesesteak egg rolls, vibing. And every single TV, and if you've ever been to Houston, been to Prospect Park, there are like 1,000 TVs.
yeah,
Every single TV was on the WNBA playoff games.
love it.
Not a single TV, this is a Friday night, not a single TV was on college football, which is interesting because this week, college football, there were some good matchups on Friday.
Yeah,
So I was like, oh, but I appreciate it. I enjoyed seeing, you know,
yeah.
where I mean, it's a sports bar at the end of the day, and so seeing that they have prioritized women's sports and seeing just the changing landscape of sports in general
For
and what
sure.
people are watching was fun. And so I was like, oh wow, it's literally all WNBA. So I was excited about that.
Awesome. Yeah. And then the Connecticut Sun, they are leading the series. I'm sorry. The Minnesota Lynx, they are leading the series 2-1. The WNBA is different for viewers who are not aware. The NBA is different. than the NBA in regard to playoffs. And the NBA is best of seven, and the WNBA it is best of five. So basically, the Lynx just have one more game to topple the Connecticut Sun. And for other news, have you heard about the viewership and specifically what Stephen A. said about the viewership of the WNBA?
So I haven't heard specifically what Stephen A. Smith loud ass has said about the viewership, but I did hear about the viewership in the WNBA there. But I didn't actually follow back up to see the stats. So what I heard was when Caitlin Clark's team, the Indiana Fever, were on the verge of being eliminated from the WNBA playoff games, um, there was speculation, or there was a, how do I want to say it? There was a hypothesis that viewership was going to take a major dip if Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever were eliminated.
Yeah,
How did that turn out? Was there a drop in viewership, or how
there
did that pan
was
out?
there was a drop in viewership. I believe game one. So first off, the Indiana Fever have not made the playoffs in I don't know specifically how many years, but the Indiana Fever have not made the playoffs, and so this is their first playoff visit in some time. And Caitlin Clark had a notable impact on that. Of course, we know that. And so game one, they had about 1.8 million views for the Indiana Fever, and then game two, they had like about 2.5 million views, which was a record that was broken. But then when you go over to the first playoff game with the Las Vegas Aces versus the Las Vegas Aces versus the New York Liberty, excuse me, the viewership went down to around 930K. So it kind of it toppled off triple or double a lot. So yeah, it definitely plummeted. But I do kind of feel like no, it plummeted, but it's still better than what it was last year. And so sometimes when we have those differences or making that a topic per se, I guess to re-emphasize Caitlin Clark's, impact, I'm all for it. But sometimes to me, how I see the angle is like, I told you Caitlin Clark had an impact when no one said she didn't.
Yeah,
Um,
it makes me think of that Kevin Gates that, like, not the meme, but that TikTok when it's like when Kevin Gates is like, "Why the f this happened to me?" and he's like, "But then I had to change my perspective."
oh, I know what you're talking about. I had to
It
change my
makes me
perspective.
think. Yeah, it makes me think about that. It's like, okay, so it seems like bad at first, like, oh wow, viewership plummeted, but
Plummeted.
when you
Your
change your
perspective.
perspective, it's like, wait, this is still much better than it was last year. So it's still a win at the end of the day,
It's
honestly.
still a win at the end of the day. And so that is sometimes where I feel like so it's weird because I'm not saying that it's wrong to re-emphasize Caitlin Clark's success in the WNBA. I think in some ways it gives me the ick of, I guess, trying to re-emphasize her impact when no one said she did not have an impact, right? And so a win is a win. Um, and so I think like those directions of conversation make it seem like people are pinned against Caitlin Clark when it's like, right.
So go back to what Stephen A. Smith said. What did he say?
Well, he didn't make any attacks. He was just re-emphasizing that, you know, you see Caitlin Clark's impact, which I guess is a great talking point. Um,
Okay.
it's a great talking point. I guess where I'm coming from is look how the WNBA has grown. Full stop.
Yeah. Okay.
Full stop. Full stop. Full stop. So that is what's going on in the WNBA world. Have you heard about my alma mater, San Jose State?
I did. I sent you a couple of stories, and it's a lot of stuff going on. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I may get canceled, but it's not like it would be our first time being canceled, so I'll be okay.
We've had practice and experience. Yeah, yeah. So
Okay, so give the rundown. Give the rundown.
so giving the rundown, news broke out that San Jose State has a transgender athlete on their team. She transferred to San Jose State from Coastal Carolina. And what sparked the move from transferring from Coastal Carolina is because there was a law that got put into place in North Carolina that transgender athletes, it made it sticky complications of transgender athletes being able to be on the sports teams, right? So she transferred to San Jose State, and so she's been at San Jose State for at least 3 seasons. But word broke out through some type of report or whatever that she's a transgender athlete, so her teammates supposedly had no clue.
Yeah.
And since then, there has been for sure 3 to 4 teams who have canceled playing, canceled their matches versus San Jose State. Mind you, they were undefeated. They just lost to Colorado State this week. And
Wait,
what
wait.
makes
I don't think you said what sports team this was. Volleyball, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, women's volleyball.
Okay.
Um, And what makes this story even more interesting is the transgender athlete's teammate has joined a class action lawsuit versus the NCAA for allowing for their Title IX rules and regulations, and for all of this debacle with transgender athletes. So there's a lot to pick apart with this story.
A lot. So I'll start off with asking you flat out, how do you feel about transgender athletes participating in collegiate sports or sports at all? What is your view? There's very clearly two clear sides. It's
Yeah,
a yes or a no. Do you think that transgender athletes should be able to participate in the sports of the gender that they transition to, or must they remain in the gender, the sport classification, the gender
right.
classification that they were originally assigned?
Awesome question. Uh, I do not believe that transgender athletes should be able to participate in the sport that they are transitioning to or that they have transitioned to. I think that you should be playing the sport of the sex that you were born into or at birth, right? Um, I am nowhere near knowledgeable on the science that's involved with whatever they take to make to put their body in a position to assimilate to the gender that they are trying to transition to. So I
Well,
don't really know the impacts of that and how that actually progresses. Does it make a transgender male, so a man who is transitioning to a woman, does it make him equal to me? I don't know. It definitely doesn't shrink his wingspan. Um, but it yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about it. But one thing I will say that's crazy about this whole situation is she's been on the team for 3 years.
and no one knew. I don't
And
know how no
nobody
one knew.
knew.
First of all, shout out to her doctor. Shout
Hey,
out to her doctor, because if you're
she's
transitioning
beautiful.
from one gender to the other and no one knows that you are transitioning or have transitioned, this is not a normal thing. It's not like someone's just seeing your clothes all day. They're in the same locker rooms. They're taking
Come
showers
on.
near each other. They're in towels. There's a severe like lack of clothing.
Well, she can be discreet. She can be
she,
discreet.
she can be discreet,
There,
but I think as women, think about the size of a volleyball team, the size of a volleyball team,
for
and
sure.
how close these teams are because they're so small, intimate. I think that we would notice if like, Susie is never taking showers at the same time as us. Susie
Mhm.
is never getting dressed with us. When you have a small team that's like what, less than 20 people, people notice that.
But
They would notice that.
I wouldn't think the absence of you getting dressed in front of me would mean that you're transgender. I would think you're shy, you're not comfortable. Like I wouldn't think now were you previously a guy? Why don't you want to get dressed? I'm not thinking.
Yeah. So my second question to you is, what do you think? Okay, so the fact that they like were not aware, is there no like title? I mean, Title IX is very strict and very specific. And I was just surprised to hear that there's no Title IX like rule in place that like makes it where you have to inform the team that
So I
someone
can
has transitioned from one gender to another. Is that not, I would think that would be somewhat in the protocol.
right. So I can imagine that being one of the reasons why her teammate is a part of the class action
Joining.
lawsuit, just
Yeah.
because she wasn't informed. So I can imagine that definitely being a claim. Honestly, my lawyer asked, I should look some of that stuff up and I'm just actually curious. So I need to actually look some of that stuff up. But
Yeah, so we need to ask. I would love to hear the public's view. Like, do you think that, does the public agree that if someone is on a team in college, on a
yeah,
collegiate sports team of some sort, should they formally be informed that there is a an athlete on their team that they're going to be in intimate spaces with that has transitioned from one gender to the other? I would say I would want to be made aware.
But what if that is a violation of HIPAA? That's a medical situation. Like, could that be considered a violation of HIPAA between you and your?
Well, HIPAA. I This is just off the top of my head, with no
I don't.
research. HIPAA is an agreement between medical professionals. So the AD, the athletic director, letting motherfuckers know, hey, this person, like the AD, is not a medical professional, so HIPAA would not apply to an athletic director.
I would be thinking though that okay, I went through um I went through a series of tests and whatever and testing before I became like qualified or whatever or cleared to begin
Yeah.
training. I would think that what would you be doing telling people my medical records? Like, what are you doing? Like, I didn't know, for example, I have the recessive sickle cell trait. Why are you telling my what?
Okay,
But
so maybe
and
the
I
school, I think maybe the school says, there's a note that's sent out to everyone that says, you know, formal acknowledgement that someone, without revealing a name or an identifying characteristic, but hey, just letting you know, heads up, there is someone that is a participant on this sports team that has previously made the transition from one gender to another. And we are just legally making sure that you're aware of it, even though we cannot specifically identify the person.
I'm not gonna lie, I can see that. Who told y'all that I want people to what? Like, I feel like, what if I
Well,
don't?
how did they know it now? How did
They
the
said it
other
was some.
schools
It's
know?
true. They said it was some type of report. I can just imagine something like that being a request of, is it okay? This is confidential. Like what? But I can also
Well,
on the other
but
side. Like,
when you apply for college, you have to identify and say, I am of this race,
yeah,
this ethnicity, I'm this gender. You have to already tell those things.
yeah. With a state like California, I can imagine there being some type of protective laws. Is all I'm saying. Like I can imagine there being something to where like it just moves on to the next desk maybe, or like we just keep
Mm,
with it. But yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. Like, bro, I would like to know if someone who was formerly a guy is on my team, and I would
yeah.
feel bamboozled in some form or fashion if you've been on my team for 3 years and I had no clue.
I would definitely be upset, and I would definitely feel like the school owed me a certain
Level
courtesy
of due diligence, yeah. To so I can
to
definitely
keep me informed on who I'm around. I mean, they would, and if you think about it this way, if there was a felon in a college, they would make
This
people
is not
aware,
the same
like,
as a felon, though. This is not the same as a felon.
it's not the same, but in terms of letting the people around you know if they're to for their own protection. And whether we want to admit it or not, there is a certain level of there's certain things that can happen, or things that someone could potentially protect themselves against if they're made aware that someone was a man at one point and has transitioned to a female. There are certain crimes that could take place.
This is definitely a sticky.
It's a slippery slope for
This is
sure.
slippery slope because I don't want to align their lane with anything that's technically like negative or like they're bad people,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
of
So,
course, of
so
course.
that's why I can understand why something like that could be kept confidential. Simply, if you're thinking of the best interest of the student athlete, like you don't want her to get bullied. You don't know, how people can react to that. It's still very fairly new. I mean, literally, University of Wyoming and Boise State are two universities who have declined playing against San Jose State since the news broke out. And I actually agree with them in the sense of if you are not for it, you are consenting if you play. You're
True.
consenting if you participate.
Yeah, 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 I agree. I 100% agree with that sentiment, because, like you mentioned earlier, it's like, if you begin and you're born as a male and you transition to a female, it doesn't shorten your wingspan just because you're taking medicine.
It doesn't.
You
You're
still jump just as high. You still jump just as high as you did when you was a damn man. there are other things, biologically that are, and chemically in your body that are changing when you take those medicines, but you're still jumping higher and running faster. And
Yeah,
that is the issue. And I think that I never said my stance on it, but I'm with you. I think that transgender athletes should not be able to participate um, in the same leagues as natural born um, athletes, because the reason why the leagues in the first place are separate is
man,
because
woman.
of those unfair advantages. If we're just gonna let transgender athletes participate and play with the women, then there needs to be one league, one NBA. There is no WNBA. The girls got to come and play in the NBA. I mean,
Yeah,
that was the only purpose of separating those leagues and making two separate entities,
yeah.
because the drastic difference between natural born males and natural born females. So we separate them for that reason. And so I think that if you allow transgenders to participate, because it's never transgender athletes that begin as a woman and transition to a man that want to go play in the man
Yeah.
leagues.
It
It's
is people.
We've only seen it one way
Yeah,
around, where natural born men want to
right.
transition and go participate in the women's leagues. And it's like,
And people
this
are
it's
calling
it's
it out.
simply it simply is not fair.
Yeah.
It's a To me, I think it's a clear right and wrong, and this is simply not fair.
people say people say that this controversy or this particular matter is jeopardizing women's sports. It's jeopardizing women's sports, and it's like at the end of the day, a lot of people try to put people in seats of empathy or sympathy, not sympathy but empathy, and say like, okay, if you had a daughter, how would you feel if she was, playing basketball against someone who transitioned from a man to a woman? Like, that's just not fair. And keep in mind that 1.6% of athletes are transgender or non binary right now in collegiate sports. And so, in some ways, it's like, it's not enough for them to have a league, clearly. And so,
Okay.
in a lot of ways, it's like, what do you do? Um,
Well, I think that one good thing to keep in mind is that women athletes have just now started getting rights and getting better treatment. Like, so it's like, let's
yeah.
fight. Let's finish fighting one cause before we move on to the next. And I know some people are gonna, fight back and say we don't have to only focus on one cause, but it's like, women athletes have been around since the beginning of time, and in 2024, we're just now saying, hey, we need to spend more money on women's sports. We need to now spend more money on women athletes, etc. And so essentially, women athletes are just now getting the money
More
spent on them, more
more
representation,
attention,
and
funding,
it's a couple steps backwards if we allow transgender, transitioning men to come into that space that was specifically curated
for women.
for women with a woman's autonomy, to be able to work through things. And WNBA players, basketball specifically, have just now gotten, and Olympic athletes have just now gotten to the point where there are mothering rooms so they can breastfeed in between their competitions. And I think it's definitely a couple steps backwards if we allow transgender transitioning men to come in and infiltrate that space.
It's definitely distracting. It's,
Very
it's super
distracting.
distracting when we are trying to get to a good place and we made leaps and bounds. Don't get me wrong. And then there's other um, fruits that are being added to the juggling of just the equity of women's sports and what it's really actually supposed to be. And so it will be interesting to see how this turns out. Um, and viewers, we definitely want you guys to tell us what you think. Like, um,
For
should
sure.
transgender athletes compete in the sport that their gender is transitioning to? Let us know what you think, because that's a big topic. But since we're in college, have you been watching some of the games this weekend?
I watched one game this weekend. So this weekend, and just so you know, your cards are upside down.
I
Your
got
card is up. Okay. Anyway, all right. Just
it was
so
like
I
good, right? But I appreciate it, yeah, from the view for sure.
thanks. So I actually went down to the Texas A&M game in College Station and watched Texas A&M absolutely dominate the Mizzou Tigers. Um, I
That
mean, they blew them out. And I want to say I said in a previous episode, I said, why is Mizzou ranked? I don't understand why Penn State, Notre Dame, Mizzou, Ole Miss, USC. I don't understand why any of these teams are ranked so high. They don't play anybody. They don't have the strength of schedule. And like I wanted and I prayed about it, Texas A&M completely
not
exposed
right.
Mizzou. I prayed about it because there's nothing too small for my God to
There's
handle.
nothing too small. Hey,
Exactly. And so I prayed about it, and God, my God, exposed Mizzou for the fraud that they are.
that's crazy. A&M mollywopped Mizzou 41-10. Um, Technically on paper it's an upset, but you're saying that it's not really being upset because Mizzou is not even really that.
Mizzou had no reason to be ranked that high. They had not played anybody. When they measure like who returned from last season, it was just like, where did number 9 come from? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
Um, but you want to take us through the scores, the resulting scores for the week.
Yes, Miami barely beat UC Berkeley 39-8, and then Arkansas had a crazy upset versus Tennessee 19-14. That was crazy. Washington pimp slapped Michigan 2017. Vanderbilt karate chopped
With
Alabama
the upset of the year,
40-35. I
maybe the upset of the decade. That might be the upset of the decade.
Vanderbilt is probably still turning up in rank, and Nick Saban is like, wow, this is not the program I built. What's going on? So that was crazy. And my squad SMU, um, pin slapped Louisville 34-27, and SMU is now ranked 25th in the country. And I am just happy and elated that we are transitioning pretty well in the ACC.
Do you know what the college rankings are for right now?
I don't have it right in front of me, but I can definitely get it. Um, while I do that, tell us what's going on for next weekend.
All right. While Nicole looks up the actual AP rankings, resulting in all those mini upsets over the weekend, let me quickly go over some games that you guys should be super excited to watch this upcoming weekend in week 7 of college football. So, with the most important and the most iconic game, we have the Red
Uh-oh.
River rivalry game. We have OU competing against the number 1 ranked Texas Longhorns. Always a good matchup, and I always tell people, no matter what team you're cheering for, when it comes to traditional rivalry games, the ranking does not matter. The ranking does not matter because each team brings their absolute best game.
Are you trying to
What
leave room for saying that OU might beat Texas?
I know, I actually don't think we stand a chance.
Oh,
I
it
am
sounds like
just
you're trying to make room for it. It still might be a game. Like,
no, no. That
UT
is
is ranked
why they're ranked number 1, but that has also, UT's ranking, Oklahoma's ranking has also not stopped the other one from winning the game because we've had
sure.
so many matchups in the past decade where Texas goes into the game unranked, or
Yeah.
Oklahoma goes into the game unranked and somehow pull off a major upset. That those rivalry games do not, they don't follow the normal traditional, like I one rule of gambling they say is to you never bet on your team,
Yeah. It's to
and
your
then
team emotion.
you never bet on rivalry games because it's too many factors that go on. Everybody's bringing their best game. It is at a neutral site in Dallas, Texas.
Makes sense.
So
Are you going to
um
the game?
no, I'm not going to the game this year. The past like 30 years the game has been hosted at 11 a.m. in Dallas, Texas at the iconic Cotton Bowl Stadium. I'm at the Texas State Fair, and this year, for the first time in many, many years, it will be at 2:30 p.m. Give
That's
people a chance to sleep in. It's a good time. It's still hot in Dallas. It's still burning up. I can't do 2:30 game in early October, so I'll probably go to an alumni watch party, or probably celebrate down at like a Hero in Dallas. Hero by HD Supply
yeah.
in Victory Park.
Hang out. Just
But
hang.
you said what? Yeah, just
No, you
hang
said
out. I
just
don't.
hang
I
out,
don't.
watch the game.
That stadium fits over 102,000 people. I don't want to be around that many people, plus the people at the state fair. But another game that I think will be a good game, but Ohio the Ohio State versus Oregon, the Ohio State versus Oregon. I actually think Ohio's going to take it, but I think that Oregon will put up a good fight. It does help that Oregon is playing at home.
Yeah.
That'll give them a slight advantage. But Ohio State looks strong. But then again, like they also have not played anybody difficult. Like, so it's easy to look good when you're playing JV. Everybody's stats looks good when you're playing JV. So there's that. We have USC, who also went through an upset this weekend, who plays Penn State. USC is no longer ranked from you got those rankings up from what I can
Yeah,
tell.
that's
USC is no longer ranked, and they're going to be playing Penn State, who I think is ranked way too high because they also don't play anybody worth a damn. And then we have Ole Miss versus LSU. Um, LSU, I said before, inconsistent. Ole Miss ranked too high to not have played anybody yet. And then we have Tennessee, who was another one of the teams that fell victim to an upset, is going against Florida, and I'm just like hoping that them Swamp Boys can pull something out of their ass and make something happen. And then last but not least, we have Ohio State playing West Virginia, which doesn't seem like a good game, but Ohio State is performing really, really well, and they're playing really consistent at the moment. But West Virginia is traditionally, I mean, West Virginia has one upset almost every season, so
yeah.
just waiting for it to happen.
Super exciting games. Super exciting games. So with the AP rankings, we have Texas at number one. We
Okay.
have Ohio State at number two. We have Oregon at number three. Penn State four. Georgia five. With
Stop. Stop.
what's
We're gonna discuss these. Why the hell is Georgia ranked behind Oregon
who's
and Penn
undefeated?
State?
Who's undefeated, by the way?
Georgia's not undefeated.
No, I'm saying Oregon is undefeated, by the way.
Oregon is undefeated, but we do have to consider who they've played. But Georgia lost to a very dominant Alabama team.
Yeah.
But I just am just like, in what world is Georgia ranked behind Oregon? I'll give them the pass on that. Oregon can be ranked, but putting Penn State ranked before Georgia's insanity. But keep going.
Then and next we have University of Miami at number six, Alabama at seven, Tennessee at eight. Oh,
Stop.
what's wrong?
Because this is some bullshit. Alabama and Tennessee both lost to unranked teams and only fell 4 spots. Tennessee was ranked 4 last week, and they fell to what, number 8?
Number eight.
They lost to an unranked team and went down 4 spots.
Are you saying that that's too low or too high?
That's too high. You lost to an unranked team. That is the purpose of the 12-team playoff, is to have more direct matchups. If you lose a direct matchup, like, you need to, both of them were given way too much grace. They should have fell out of the top 10. To lose to 2 unranked opponents and still remain in the top 10, that's where I call bullshit.
But I think you're looking at it a little bit too linear because it depends on the teams who are ranked below them and who they lost to versus who they want to. So I think it's a little bit more complex than just you lost to an
It
unranked
is.
team.
It
Boom.
is
Let's
more
see.
complex than that. It is more complex than that. But when you get down on those rankings, Texas A&M. Okay, Mizzou was ranked number 9 last week when they went into the game playing uh
Yeah.
Mizzou, playing Texas A&M.
Now
Mizzou
they're
was
ranked 21.
who is
Mizzou is now 21.
so Mizzou is ranked. Mizzou came in at number 9 playing a 24 ranked Texas A&M, right?
Yeah.
And Mizzou lost to another ranked team,
Yes.
and Mizzou fell
All
to
the way down
21. So you can't, if with the excuse that you just said, you can't make Mizzou fall
that far.
11 spots. Is that 11 spots? Nine and got dropped to
Maybe
21?
give or
Yeah.
take. But it depends on what the other teams did. Like it's like, but what else happened? And unless we know, unless you know all the concoctions of what happened with BYU, who they beat, and then who LSU beat, and then who this, then it creates the whole picture. Is all I'm saying. But I do get where you're.
But, and I get what you're saying. And I understand what you're saying. But I'm saying if a ranked matchup, both teams were ranked,
Yes,
Texas A&M at 24 and Mizzou at number 9, and Mizzou lost to a ranked Texas A&M. You cannot excuse the fact that Mizzou fell from 9 to 21 and fell, what is that, 11 spots?
yeah. It just
You can't
that's a
excuse
big
that.
drop.
That's a big, but it's an appropriate drop. It's appropriate. So you can't have Mizzou drop for losing to a ranked team and then have Tennessee and Alabama lose to unranked teams and they don't drop more than those 11 spots. It does not make sense. Now, I'm not saying that those are going to be the finishing numbers, but as of this week, they should be below Mizzou because
But I think
Mizzou lost to a ranked opponent.
yes,
These two motherfuckers lost to unranked opponents. So if the person who lost to the ranked team falls 11 spots, then the person who lost to the unranked team needs to fall more than 11.
they
Not
also factor
four, but
in.
losing four, going down 4 spots in a goal is fucking ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. They also factor into the game scores. Like Mizzou got blown out.
Okay.
Alabama, it was an upset, but they lost by 5. And
Mizzou got blown out by a what?
a ranked
A
team, but it's
ranked
still blown
opponent.
out. It's still blown out. Like they factor in all of those minuscule things. Arkansas beat Tennessee by 5 points. It's like Jesus Christ. But
But for dropping four slots is unacceptable. I'm tired of Alabama getting bailed out.
they be getting bailed out.
And it's
We'll
just
see
like
week
there's
2.
no
I mean,
way Tennessee, my final thing is like Tennessee and Alabama should not be anywhere in the top 10. After losing to an unranked team, you shouldn't be top 10
you
anymore.
should be out. You should be out of the
But
12-man bracket, 12 bracket.
yeah, but to our viewers, just keep in mind that essentially these AP rankings are for us to keep like
Track.
to keep track of it and make it measurable. But at the end of the day, the AP rankings don't fucking matter. They don't matter at all. It comes down to the CFP rankings, which begin what, November?
Yeah.
They begin in November. So we can be mad, but AP poll might put them at 7 and 8, and the CFP poll might
Might
put them
be.
at 13 and 14 right now. It might be completely different. They just released those so late in the season that we just won't see. We won't see what that turns out to be until the end of the season, essentially.
But I think that's actually probably why. So they can get everyone, okay, everyone, y'all got y'all little jitters out. Y'all play different people. It's time for conference play. Now we have enough information to essentially give a fair record
Ranking, yeah.
of what the heck is going on as we lead into the playoffs. But honestly, good conversation though. I get it.
Okay, so we left off at 7 and 8 being Alabama and Tennessee. Who's number 9?
Um, who is number 9? At number 9, we have Ole Miss, and then we have Clemson at number 10.
Okay, they
Yo,
snuck in there.
you want the whole 25?
Yeah, I
Oh
do.
shit. Okay. 11 Iowa State. That's interesting because Notre Dame is tied for 11 as well. So Notre Dame and Iowa State are both tied for 11. And then LSU is number 13, right? Uh,
Who has been fighting for their damn life every Saturday?
they have been working hard. They had a good week because they went against South Alabama. But yeah, they've been
LSU has
fighting.
been barely winning every game that they played.
Yeah.
How they're in the top 15, I don't know. But anyways, I guess.
BYU is number 14. They have been kicking ass. They are 5-0. A&M is number 15. Utah number 16. Boise State 17, Kansas State 18, and Kansas State is tied, triple tie. Kansas State, Indiana, and OU at 18.
Which
Um,
OU and Texas both had bye weeks last week, so they,
come fresh legs. We'll see what's going on.
yeah.
Mizzou at 21, Pitt at 22. They are also 5-0. Um, Illinois at 23, Michigan at 24. Wow. Michigan won in 2023 college football championships, and they
They
are
put Michigan at 24,
Michigan dropped ridiculous because they lost to Washington,
an unranked team, right?
an unranked team.
And they
And
dropped
it's
that
like,
much, but Tennessee
shame
and
on y'all.
Alabama didn't drop that much.
Michigan lost to this year. Where they lost to Texas, and then they lost to Washington. And then last but not
Okay.
least,
Okay.
we have SMU at number 25. Go Ponies or Pony Up.
Pony up. So my thing here, and I'll probably let, I'm not, no, I was gonna say I'll let it rest. I will never rest. This is unjust. This is not civil, and this is not right. We'll have to bring back the civil rights. But Oklahoma didn't play this week, and Oklahoma, for perspective, lost to, at the time, Oklahoma was ranked, I think, 15 or 16. A number 16 ranked Oklahoma played and lost to a number 5 or 6 ranked Tennessee, and we went down for losing to a team that was ranked above us and won when they should have won. But yeah, Oklahoma went down for losing to a team that they rightfully were supposed to lose to.
Yeah,
But Bama and Tennessee lose to an unranked team and they only go down 4 slots.
maybe we
It's
need to figure out.
bullshit.
Maybe we need to figure out someone who's within the college AP ranking situation, and they can explain to us what the heck goes on. What are the various factors? They have to have some type of metric, I guess, in order to assess fairness. So we'll see, because clearly you won't let it rest, and I get it.
Okay.
I get it. I get it. I
So
get
so
it.
that can be a goal of ours, is to get someone on the podcast that can explain that.
Yeah, because we are just putting out hypotheticals. Like, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm just saying stuff. But anything else with college football?
We did want to talk about Travis Hunter.
What's going on with Travis Hunter?
Travis Hunter, he's in the Heisman
Possible.
talks.
Yes.
He has played 202 more snaps than the second most played player
Interesting.
in college football. So by a long shot, he's played way more snaps than the average collegiate football player. Because if you guys are not aware of who Travis Hunter is, he plays for Colorado.
Yeah,
He's over there with Deion Sanders, and he plays on both sides
for sure.
of the ball. He plays offense and defense.
Wide receiver and cornerback.
Yeah. Um,
So you're already
is
coming into each game double of what the average player would even
yeah.
double the average snaps that the player would have, or an average player would have. So that makes sense, and that also even shows even more how much of a crazy cold player he is. We need you on both sides, baby. We need you on
Yeah.
both sides
I don't think that. Well, he's gonna have to pick one if when he goes to the NFL.
for sure.
He's gonna have to pick one. I am interested to hear which side he decides he wants to. Uh, he would prefer to play on. But he's doing great. The Colorado program, is have they beat their record from last year? Like their not their scoring record, but their finishing record. Like they've officially won more games this year than they did last year, right? So it's been an improvement that we can actually measure. Last year they won 4 games.
I would definitely have to check, but
Okay. Well, you have a Colorado team. There's that, but I did want to ask you, because I'm being messy, is like what you thought about the aesthetic of the Colorado Buffaloes.
um, aesthetic as in just the ambiance that Deion Sanders brings, Shordar
Y-
Sanders brings, and just the drama that comes into the games and everything like that.
Yeah, just, is it a distraction? They do come hard, they do come heavy, and they are very flashy. Um, Other coaches have complained. I mean, outwardly have complained and spoken about giving their opinions about how Deion Sanders runs the program, and they think that it's just too flashy of a program. So I just wanted to know what you thought about it.
Forget them. Like I can have whatever culture that I want to have with my team, so long as I am abiding by NCAA regulations. It doesn't really matter. It's 2024. We need to drop whatever traditional things that people think are into play, so long as we're abiding by rules. Like Colorado has a different type of swag on them, and that is why their viewership is out the roof. That is why people want to listen. That's why people want to watch. That's why you're seeing celebrities come to the games. That's why you're seeing like Cam Newton, who was the Heisman winner, on the turf with them. So I
Yeah, but one would argue that some of the antics are a little bit flashy, and thus resulting in them being a distraction to the team. I mean, so
so I mean
you have players, specifically speaking about instances like you have players wearing $100,000 watches in the game. You have players tweeting and
yeah.
posting Instagram pics at halftime. Those are the antics that I'm more so talking about. Like,
Okay. To me, it's hard to really like have an issue with that. They're winning. They're doing better than they have been before. Also with the flashiness, if someone is saying that they're distracting the other team, then maybe,
no,
they're
no, 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 no. They're saying it's distracting to Colorado's team and their own players.
oh, the culture and whatnot. I mean, I can definitely understand that and see that. This is a new era of football. Name, image, and likeness is a thing. I wonder if those types of attention is probably putting more money in a lot of these players' pockets. It's up to Deion Sanders to guide his team to whatever culture that he sees fit. Um, but there's a lot that comes with being a superstar, and that is what some of these guys are on the Colorado football team. And they brought a lot of attention to the team, and they're like 19, 18 to 23 years old.
I keep getting calls. Those are from three different people. Okay, so yeah. Um, okay, well that's all I had to. That's all I have for this week. It's a short and sweet episode. We'll be back with our traditional programming, um, like normal, right? Right?
Yeah, we will. We're gonna um give you the best we got. So we'll be back next week. Jordan, do you want to close us out?
Sure. Okay. So you guys have tuned in to another episode of the Playbook Diaries. I am Jardin.
And it's your girl Nicole.
And we're signing out until next time. Make sure y'all stay engaged, like, comment, follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok at Playbook Diaries. Give us some feedback. Let us know your thoughts. As always, we're always happy and excited to engage with you guys. But until next time, we are signing out.
Cheers.